Hello, I'm Jay. Let's talk about Fleet of Knives, number 2 in the Embers of War series by Gareth L. Powell. I'm going to assume if you're watching this review, you have either you've read the first book and probably read the second book of the series. I'm going to do these reviews and then I'm going to do a non-spoilery non-spoilerly kind of review of the entire series, but these reviews are a little bit more spoilery. So let's get down to brass tacks with this series, which has kind of started off as dumb with some aspirations to being serious, to really just kind of falling off, jumping the shark. Oh, there's sharks. We'll get to the sharks at the end of this review. So yeah, last time in Embers of War, spoiler, that book opens with a genocide that ends the war, and we're in this world where a cruise ship is touring these odd ancient planets that have all been carved into shapes. It gets shot down for mysterious reasons. We find out what those reasons are. It turns out that this planet is hollow on the inside and bigger on the inside and houses the Marble Armada, which is looking for a purpose, and it finds that it's given that purpose by the Trouble Dog, which is and its crew, especially the Captain Sal. I can't remember her last name at the moment. Who come to rescue the cruise ship. Only Ona Sudak, this war poet, is left. They give this Marble Armada the purpose because they are members of the House of Reclamation, sort of a black, like the Black Watch of George R. R. Martin's thing. Of these are all the discards, all the people who've rejected their warring factions and have given up loyalties to join the House of Reclamation, which is mission is of peace and life above all. And indeed, the Marble Armada goes, this will be our purpose. Our makers have mysteriously disappeared, and that will be our purpose. But they need a leader. Now, also in this book, we find out that Ona Sudak is revealed to be the war criminal who gave the orders at the very beginning of Embers of War to go around the actual battle happening and, basically bomb the civilians. In this case, it's bombing a super ancient sentient forest, almost completely wiping it out. We do find out that in this book that there maybe is at least one survivor, but yeah, and there's a evil militaristic faction who is desperately trying to destroy the Trouble Dog and suppress this because they want to use this information for their own nefarious purposes. They're very kind of black hat, but they get destroyed. So in this novel, Fleet of Knives, there's yet another rescue. In this case, Lucy's Ghost, a salvage ship run by Johnny Schultz, who's trying to be kind of very irresponsible and kind of a rapscallion guy. They decide to go and do an illegal salvage on this alien beings and one of their ancient arc ships that was a failed arc ship indeed, but it's now seen as kind of a very shrine, and them going on board to pillage for goods that they can sell off because they're desperate for money is what gets they is very illegal. And in the midst of this, they get attacked by some a creature from from a higher dimension, which indeed the Marble Armada seems to be very concerned about incursions from the higher dimensions, and that's one of the reasons why they want to suppress all violence. Is they think that the higher dimension, whatever they're afraid of from the higher dimensions, is attracted by violence. So they're not really doing it because peace is wonderful, but because war could bring on these attention from these higher dimension things. So yes, the Trouble Dog yet again happens to be the closest ship to be able to go and rescue them. The Sal and her crewmate Clay are sort of working things out because Sal, at the beginning of the last book, she did something that may have gotten another crewmate that Clay is quite attached to killed, and there's this thing of like, oh, I should be responsible for this, but this all gets swept under the rug by the House of Reclamation elders, who's like, well, no, you've been doing more important stuff, so we're just going to let it go. It's kind of maybe not. They probably would have convicted her if it hadn't been for her getting caught up in all this Marble Armada nonsense. Clay is like, she testified against her because George was her friend, but they make up, and now they're sisters, and hopefully one of them won't get in trouble. And in the most kind of the most head scratcher in this book, Ona Sudak, who was revealed as the war criminal who gave the orders in the last book, she's sentenced to death, but gets sprung from that most violently, and ends up being chosen by the Marble Armada to lead them in their mission of peace, of making sure that there is peace above all. And they kind of do some hand wavy thing of like, oh, well, you gave yourself over to the firing squad to face up for your things. Like, no, she was handed over by the crew. This wasn't like wasn't a voluntary thing, and she seems completely unrepentant for her actions, which is shown because she immediately goes about making more horribly morally damnable decisions at the head of the Marble Armada, which seems to be what the Marble Armada was actually banking on, that she was going to continue her war criminal ways in this. And what was sort of an interesting character in the first book, marginally interesting character in the first book, like, she's stopped being the person that she was when she made that order. Now she's a war poet, and she's sort of more thoughtful. It's like, no, that's all gets tossed, and now she's Ona Sudak, war criminal, and making all those decisions, becomes very much kind of a flat character, like the militarist assholes were flat characters in the last book, which is not that interesting. So yeah, this book repeats. We get the rescue plot. We get Trouble Dog dives into yet another tight spot to get away from the bad guys. The new bad guys, sort of the Marble Armada and Ona Sudak, are as kind of flat and one note as the militaristic assholes were in the other book. I think the book is really undermined by what the hell is the nature of the Marble Armada, and like why do they make the decisions that they do, even just like their methods of like, okay, we want to disarm all the humans. It's like they're going to go about it the most violent way possible, basically saying like everyone has to lay down their arms right now, and if they haven't done it immediately, they're attacking the entire galaxy, blowing everyone away, and just this orgy of blood and destruction, which is like, that's just going to bring on the higher dimensional baddies that you've been worried about. It's like you would do targeted things of like, you would roll up to a thing and say, do it, or else we'll blow up we'll blow up this. And they refuse, you blow up that, and they go, oh, okay, we now are aware of what your power is. Like, no, they don't do that. They just say, surrender, and people are like, no, and so they just destroy everything entirely. And indeed, it seems like their plan is going to be, we're going to destroy not only all their military capabilities, but any capabilities to actually kind of go between planets, which is going to just basically chop off the limbs of this empire, and everything, like a lot of these limbs are just going to wither and die away and cause horrible suffering. And it's like, is the Marble Armada is their plan just to kill everybody? Because when it comes down to it, sentient life, especially human sentient life, is the source of all this violence. So maybe the best way to have peace is just to kill everybody, which is, that's a fine pulp fiction silly plot. But the book is just trying so hard to be serious, that it doesn't make any sense. It's like the characters that are trying to make them thoughtful and soulful. Whereas I think if they were just cartoony and more, it's funny because like Johnny Schultz, you think, oh, here's a rogue who's going to be kind of like swashbuckly. It's like, no, they just make him grow up and be thoughtful and settle down with a family, which is just like, this book is crying out for just, Johnny Schultz just doing mayhem and not really being reflective and just having fun, that would actually work far more with this dumb plot than what's kind of them trying to really reach for sort of a thoughtful like stuff. And it's like, I think the best example of this, because, and it's boy, I guess it's a spoiler in the sense that it's the last few lines of the book, but even earlier on in the book, they use this cliche, which is one character saying to another, it's like, we're like sharks. If we stop moving, we'll die. Which, they say it in all seriousness, and I just kind of roll my eyes, but it's like, okay, they said it, fine. But no, they decide to go, the Powell decides to go back to that line for the very capper, the very end of the book, like, wow, this is really kind of digging in deep to the kind of the thematic kind of depths of this book. It's like, no, you're using a goddamn cliche, and you're using it twice, and you're putting it at the very end of your book to just highlight how dumb this book is. And why can't it be dumber? Why can't it be dumber? Why can't it not take itself seriously? Because I think that would be the only way to rescue something like this. So yes, I, as a reviewer, am also like a shark in that I am now going to move on and listen, because I've listened to all these on audiobook. If I'd been reading them, I probably would have given up long ago. And this project of wanting to review each book separately, and then just at the very end do a series review, which is unfortunately it's not going to be at least unless book number 3 really kind of shimmies over. This is not going to be a happy review. But it's an interesting project of, okay, I'm going to read all 3 books in a series, the whole arc of the series, and then make a non-spoiler review for the series. So I'm going to go on to the 3rd book, God help me, and listen to that and just try and take it as fun, silly fun. Keep my ear open, because maybe Gareth L. Powell will surprise me. Maybe I've missed all the intelligent, probing questions it's asking about war and the nature of war and the nature of making moral decisions that are terrible, but are for the higher good, or how bullshit that is. This is just such a mess of a series, but I guess I will come back with the 3rd in the series, which I didn't even bother to look up the name of, and see how that goes. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later. I've been Jay.